Well, good morning, church. And we're going to have a little different sermon today. We are actually Zooming with Trey and Caitlin Lancaster in Gweru, Zimbabwe. Am I saying that correctly?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty
We're
good,
in
huh?
Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Hey, FBC.
It's actually about 9 p.m. there. I'm recording this on a Monday afternoon at 2 in the afternoon, and it's 9 o'clock there. And we're so grateful that they were willing to have this Zoom call with us, and we want to peek into their life for just a few minutes. So I've got several questions that we're going to ask of them, and we can't wait to hear what life is like out on the mission field. So first, let me ask you guys, how long have you been there on the mission field? They're in Zimbabwe.
We've been here in Gweru, Zimbabwe for right at a year and a half now. So coming up on a year and 7 months.
May 12th is the day that we flew to Africa. So it's cool how God's timing works, because that's also the day that we were married. So he made our Africa anniversary the same as our wedding.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Bad times.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Now,
Yeah.
how long?
In the future.
Well, I didn't catch that. Say that again.
I was just saying it'll help us not to forget either one in the future.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It'll be good for both of us.
Now, how long did it take you to adjust to life in Zimbabwe? And we want to know what that life is like. I want to know what's the temperature like? Do you have seasons there? Maybe it's not fall and spring, but rainy and non-rainy. What's it like there?
You want to go first?
You go first, and I'll
go first. I'll start with what's it like. The temperature is very much like Quincy, very much like Florida, with a little bit less of the humidity. It is beautiful as far as the temperature goes. It can get extremely hot and it does get cold, but for 80% of the time, it's extremely enjoyable. I would also say that as far as the seasons, we are flip-flop. So right now is our spring to summer. If y'all are fall going into winter, we're the opposite. So it's just now getting super hot for us. So it's the opposite in that regard. As far as adjustment goes, I think the thing that's taken me the biggest thing to get used to is most of the women here will wear skirts. Now they can be the tightest skirt you've ever seen, but as long as it's a skirt versus trousers or dress pants, then that's the appropriate thing to do. So that sometimes there are times I'll get dressed for church or get dressed to go to town and then go, wait a minute, do I have a dress or skirt that's clean? So that's just taken me, I tend to wear a ton of shorts. So it's just taken me a minute to go, okay, I'm going for a jog. Wait, what can I wear? Okay, I'll wear one of Trey's shirts that's really long. And so just thinking through that, I still feel I'll often walk out what I think is appropriate, but here it's scandalous at times. So we just laughed that Trey's shorts are shorter than mine now. So I think that probably has taken me just a minute to just remember. So I think that has been the biggest thing. What would you say? Oh, okay, last thing. And not those days that you're super tired, you just want to come home and have a quick meal and just eat. Peanut butter and jellies are like the only quick meal. You can't just buy like a pre-made meal or a pre-cut food or pre-cut vegetables. It's always go get it, wash it, cut it, dry it, and all the steps. And so I think we've eaten a lot of peanut butter and jellies on those nights that I don't want to cook or that we're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Caitlin had mentioned that with the weather, we're in the southern hemisphere, you are in the northern hemisphere, so it's opposites. But one thing that's taken us a little getting used to is In our wintertime, that's the dry season. So no rain, very dry, very cold. And then right now, we've just started getting into our rainy season. But there's a period to where usually you would think when the rains come, like in Quincy, it usually starts to get very humid. When the rains come, things start to cool down. But there's a period between the dry season and the rainy season that it just gets hot. And it just gets so hot. And the rains actually cool everything down, and it actually doesn't get super humid. But usually the month of October, it's like you can't escape the heat. Yeah. It's scorching, and it's like you look at the weather forecast and you're like, there is no way it's only 89 degrees. Yeah. It has to be 150 degrees outside, and just escaping it that's been
we don't have most homes here, and our house is owned by the IMB, so we essentially rent this home from the IMB. So it's a very nice home. We're grateful to be in it. It has a huge yard with a fence, and it's super fun for the boys to go outside and play. But most, if not all, homes here do not have any type of central heating or central AC. So because we thought, man, it gets as hot in Florida and Georgia as it does here. What's going on? But it's just because it's 1 a.m. and you're sweating and sticking to your sheets because you don't get a relief. And that's what we realized. We finally put that together. It feels so cold because there's nothing else other than our fireplace to warm up to, or it feels so hot because there's nothing to cool down.
Yeah. And I would say right now, it's feeling really nice. We had a really nice rain today, and it's been dry. They've had pretty dry, rainy seasons. They haven't been very good, and the people just have not been able to grow hardly any crops or anything. And with the combination of the economy in Zimbabwe and also just the lack of rains, it's been very, very challenging for the people. And we've just seen poverty just rising and rising and rising. So seeing these rains are a huge answer to prayer. I'm getting off subject. I'm coming right back into what everyday life is like, and what seems different, and what are things hard to adjust to. One thing that took us a second to adjust to is you drive on the opposite side of the road here. And so I will say that we are both really good at driving now. I'm afraid to go back to America now, because now it's kind of second nature.
We're in America.
Yeah, watch out. But that first month, there was a couple of times where we were both scaring the other one.
We're thankful that both with my dad, with all of his Jeeps and stuff, that growing up and learning to drive a stick, and Trey as well, that he knew how to drive a stick shift. That was one of the huge blessings, like that seem as an insignificant thing just growing up to know how to drive a stick. But when you're in all the culture shock and everything's new, and you're on the wrong side of the road and you're trying to drive and pass a car and not hit the cows, and we just both said, Lord, thank you for letting us feel confident in our driving of a stick shift.
Yes.
So that's just one small way we feel like the Lord has been kind in preparation.
Preparing you, Well, one of the questions I always ask missionaries living overseas are, tell us about the animal life. Snakes, lions, monkeys. Do you have any of that there?
We're looking at a gecko. I can't turn around the computer at the moment, but there's a gecko that's on our wall right now who's taking part of this as well. So that's sort of neat to have a gecko in our living room.
And he leaves us marks all over the wall. So, but So one thing that's a real part, I'm very thankful. We live here in town, so there's not a whole lot of snakes, but we do have monkeys. But outside of town, we have all the dangerous snakes, the boomslangs, the mambas, the cobras. And so those are scary. And so we're thankful that we haven't had any very close encounters with any of those. But we've seen a lot of monkeys, have seen giraffes and zebras and
it tends to be, it's not like we can walk in our backyard and see the giraffes and elephants and that type of thing. Because of the population growth within Africa, you have almost like your set aside preserves. So you typically will have to go onto a preserve to see that. You don't typically are in town and just see a giraffe, that type of thing. But we say that, and then all of a sudden you'll hear that these dogs are eaten by leopards. So So I don't think I'd walk alone in the woods at night.
Yeah. You think that it's like, oh, there's no wildlife here. You mainly see those like in the game parks and stuff. But then occasionally you're talking to one of your neighbors and they're like, my calf got eaten by a hyena. And it's like, oh, yep, we live in Africa.
Well, speaking of that, what's the food like there? Take me through a typical breakfast. You mentioned peanut butter and jelly, but what else do you eat for lunch and for dinner? And I gather that there's not a Chick-fil-A anywhere close by. So any fast food? What do you do on a date night? Those types of things.
No, that's great. So the typical meal would be
let's say traditional meal. Is that what you're gonna share?
The traditional meal that most of the Shona people that would eat here is when we go to the rural area and sit down in their village and they prepare a meal for us. Usually what they're preparing is the main part is a cornmeal. So you're thinking something like grits, and it's usually ground a lot finer. And so they call this sadza. And so we'll have sadza, which is very similar to grits. That's a lot more dense and finer in texture. And then they're going to usually have greens that are cooked in oil. And then usually they have some kind of meat.
So imagine like a collard green, like a boiled down cooked green.
Yes. And so they're always cut very fine and cooked into an oil. And then they usually have a meat along with that. And usually they cook the meat in a gravy with tomatoes and onions and lots of spices. So a lot of times that'll be goat. Sometimes it'll be beef. We haven't had too many exotic foods, but we have gotten to eat some dried mapani worms. And we've also have seen flying ants being cooked. They're big things. So flying ants is something that people eat. Usually the flying ants come in with the rains, and usually you just put on a light outside and it just gets covered with flying ants. And you just go and collect them and put a little oil in the pan and put them in there with a little salt, and that's how you eat them. So
I think the biggest thing for me that stands out regarding food in the States, I would tend to make a menu for the week, then make the grocery list based off the menu for the week. And then I go to the store, I purchase all the ingredients that I need, come home, I make it. Okay, it's done. Here, I was blown away because there's a grocery store and it's beautiful, and I walk in and it had tomatoes, carrots, onions, and greens. And I said, oh, I can't wait to see what it has next time. Walk in, it has tomatoes, onions, carrots, and greens. So what I've had to learn is, Lord is gracious to allow me to learn this over and over again, but I'm not in control of anything, even down to the food that we eat, because I can't make a menu for the week, because you'll go and if it's not in season, it's not there. You'll go, if the truck didn't come through the border, it's not there. So it's one of those, I found myself getting frustrated and going, oh, what am I going to fix? This is not on my list. I'd come home with half the ingredients. And so I realized, and just one of the things I feel like the Lord is teaching me of, you just have to be flexible in some of those areas that I thought that I was in control and planning for. And so I've learned that when we plan our meals or we eat, we tend to go, "Ooh, what do you feel? What do you feel like eating tonight? Let's eat pizza. Let's eat this." But here, people eat for survival. So I would say that 97% eat salsa and kovo, those greens, every day, 3 times a day. So even like when I'll joke and I'll ask some of my local friends, like, "Yeah, so what are you gonna cook tonight?" They look at me like, "Salsa, greens." Like, same thing.
Yeah.
So just sort of, I realized how much I base my life around preference versus eating to sustain myself.
Yeah. We had some of our Shona friends in, and I said, "Okay, guys, so if you had a choice, like if you could have pizza with
there is a pizza. There's a pizza place and a chicken place.
Yeah. I said
it's just like our pizza, right? I mean,
yeah,
similar enough.
Except there's not any type of pepperonis. It's chicken pizza.
Yeah. So I said, if you could have pizza or if you could just have a bowl of salsa. So not with the vegetables, not with the meat.
There's no flavor.
Just,
super bland.
Yeah, it doesn't have like, I'm used to some cheese in my grits or like salt and pepper. This is just plain cornmeal. And I said, if you could, have a choice between that. And they said, oh, hands down, salsa every time. Wow. Without a, yeah. So it was just kind of like.
I'm thinking you wouldn't want to break from salsa to eat pizza. Like, so it's just funny how you think.
Yeah.
It just can be totally different.
Well, tell me about your boys. How old are they now?
Rayford is 3, and then Rincey is 2. Rayford is almost 4. Today was actually his first his piano lesson, and so that went really well today. It only lasted for about 12 minutes, but it lasted and it went well. As far as the boys go, they absolutely love it here. And I guess part of it is this is all they can sort of remember, honestly. Rayford is just getting the concept that America is something different than Africa.
Yeah.
He just knows he has to see a plane in order to see a grandparent. So he's not quite sure how that works, but they are doing great. I would say, like, for our typical day, we share one truck. So usually me and the boys are at home, and then Trey drives the 20 minutes out to the seminary to check on the chickens and all that stuff.
And we'll explain that more.
Yeah, we can go into that more. So usually the boys and I are at home, and again, we have a backyard, we have a gardener, and he built us a tree house, and we just got some chickens, and
here at our house.
Yes, we just got huge chickens at our house, and the boys have loved that. They towed them around, those poor things. They put them in the swimming pool. We just have like a blow-up kiddie pool. They put the chickens in the swimming pool. They put the chickens in the stroller. But it's been a lot of fun. They definitely love life here and the outdoors. And typically people, they herd their cows. There's not fences for the most part. So like you'll see a shepherd with his cows and walking around. So our kids love it when the cows are in the road, and
Rincey's always screaming down the road, cow, cow.
Yeah.
That's one thing we haven't quite gotten used to yet. I think that I'm used to it, and then Rince is screaming in the back seat, cow, cow, as it's walking through the road. And,
So they love the animals. They love just how friendly and loving the people are.
Yes.
Rayford could speak a tiny bit of Shona, so he in Shona will say, "Hello, my name is Rayford," and people just look at him, and then Rayford looks at me like, "Mama, why don't they know what I'm saying?" And then all of a sudden I tell him he's speaking in Shona, and
they're just not expecting.
They're not expecting 3-year-old to come at them in Shona, so it's been fun, and they eat everything. They eat the mupani worms. They eat matimba, which is these tiny little fish that are dried out. They don't care. They eat everything.
Yeah. And so when we're going to a rural area and, they're having all this food for us, and for them to see our kids eating all of it, it's one thing for them to see us to eat it. They know that we would be respectful to eat it, but to see our kids eating it and see them speaking a little bit of their language, it really just opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's amazing how the
Relationally,
kids have
for the
opened up doors.
gospel, just all kinds of doors are open. And it's cool that God is using our kids to open up doors. And it's really cool.
Well, let's talk about your missions work there. Now, you mentioned earlier that your house is owned by the IMB. For those of you that may not know what the IMB stands for, that's the International Mission Board, and that is the mission international side of the Southern Baptist Missions, and the North American side is the North American Mission Board, but they are with the IMB. And last count was 3,585 IMB missionaries. So you are part of that number. Yeah. And we're honored that you came right out of our congregation here. Yeah. So describe very briefly, describe your call to missions. How did you know that the Lord was calling you into full-time missions?
No, it's one that we can look at right now, and it wasn't something that started in a short period of time. It took over a long period of time. But just to give you a short piece of my story, and then I'll let Caitlin tell a little bit of her story, just of the calling into more of long-term missions. I would say that this calling started back when I was in college at Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College in Tifton, Georgia. And so I was there, a freshman, and I was serving in Baptist Collegiate Ministries and also serving along with Young Life. And right then, I was involved in a Bible study, and it was the first time that I was really reading more into God's Word and just learning more about who He was and learning more about His mission. And so I got to see little glimpses of that through short-term mission trips, through churches, through short-term mission trips, through to Haiti, international mission trips. And so I started to see that, wow, like, this is awesome. And I want to be on mission with God, whether I'm in my hometown or internationally. But I started praying through, like, Lord, what would this look like, internationally? Is this something that you're calling me to? Is this something that I want to be more a part of? So I was a freshman in college at the time and trying to decide, what am I going to do with my life? Like, man, mission seems really cool, but I'm not really sure, 100% sure that's where God's calling me. So I was originally on track to do a turf management program and doing golf course turf management. That's what I originally had decided for ABAC. They had a great turf management program. But during my freshman year, I was thinking, if later down the road that God really called me to missions, I don't know if I would be limited in how I could use turf management. So I switched to diversified agriculture because that's something that I grew up around. That's something that I was passionate about. And so I thought that would also not limit me as much. And I had started meeting other missionaries that were using agriculture to spread the gospel. So that's where it kind of started in college. And then I met Caitlin, and she also had the same passion that she wanted the lost to hear the good news about Jesus Christ. And so that it wasn't just for us to hear, but it was for everyone to hear. So we dated, we got married, and after we were married, we were still praying through, all right, what does this look like? So after we were married, I started working for a chemical company in South Georgia and was working there. And I started just applying for a bunch of missions organizations and said, Lord, like, if this is what you want us to do, we want to follow this. And so we applied to a bunch and we never heard back anything. And we're kind of just praying through God's
It just
direction.
felt confusing in the moment. It felt confusing at that time. We just weren't sure where to go or what to do.
But we kept praying. And we got churches involved and said, we do feel like this is something the Lord's leading us to. We just don't know exactly how it's all going to line up. Yeah. And so an opportunity, the mission organizations that we had applied to, they got back with us and they said, we're looking more for, if we're going to do a paid position to a person, we're looking for someone that has a little more experience. We're looking for someone that has more of a biblical degree or seminary. And so for those paid positions, we're looking for those kind of qualifications. So I started looking into a seminary and applied and was accepted. But the cool thing was that her brother was also going to the same seminary. And so that opened up a lot of doors for us to go to seminary together. And through that process, we got involved with the International Mission Board and also through a local church in Kentucky. And we basically were just continuing to come alongside of churches saying, again, we still don't know exactly how this looks like for us, but please pray for us. We want to be faithful to what God's calling us to do. Even though it's not 100% laid out for us, we want to do what God's calling us to do. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting here now saying, man, look how faithful he was. But there were so many times where we just couldn't see 10 feet in front of us. We didn't know what was going to be next, but man, he was so faithful. And there is a really long story just with all of this, but that's just a small picture of that. God was so faithful to bring us here to Zimbabwe. And yeah, I'll let you tell a little bit of your story and we'll unpack a little more.
I'll just say that, I guess to give a background, First Baptist of Quincy just holds a special place inside my heart because growing up, I had heard about Christ, I had heard about Jesus, and the people that I was surrounded with at church, they had this joy about them, and it was fun. I just loved being there. I loved the people, and I continually heard. But at one point, someone said, it was a Carmen concert. And I remember that Bill Dixon was there, and I think my mom was there, and my brother, and I can't remember all who else, but Carmen, when he went and presented the gospel, he said, knowing the head facts of Jesus is different than having a personal relationship. And I was 12 at that time. And that's when I just felt the Lord laying that on my heart of saying, Caitlin, you've grown up in the church. You've learned this stuff, but you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus. Going to church does not make you have a personal relationship to Jesus. You have to admit that you're a sinner, believe that Jesus died on the cross and he rose on the third day, and commit your life to living for him. And I just said the ABCs. That was one thing we learned in vacation Bible school at FBC in Quincy. And that's when I felt like my relationship, when I started to have a relationship with Jesus. I didn't understand exactly how I was a sinner at 12, or I knew that I'd get mad at my parents or at my brother and stuff like that. But so then to be discipled throughout my years of elementary and youth and different things, I was okay at a lot of things, but I was never great at something. So I always felt like, Lord, I'm just like an average person. What can I do for you? How can I live my life for you and give you everything? And just in high school, it looked different than college, and just having to ask him that over and over, like, Lord, how as an 8th grader can I submit to you and honor you and grow in you? Lord, how is 11th grader? How, now that I'm driving and I have this car and it's fun, how can I submit my life to you and honor you with this car and honor you with this freedom? Lord, as a college age, how can I honor you by living alone in a dorm room? And how can I honor you with my free time that this is new and fun? Lord, now as a girlfriend, how can I honor you by dating this man? And
Mhm.
like, it never, I never, it never, I feel like I hear sometimes these stories where people say that they knew at age 12 they were going to this place to work with this people group. That was never the way either of us felt. It was just like God saying, okay, do you want to be obedient to me in this stage of your life right now? And there were times I thought, can I just drop out of middle school and move to Africa or move to China or move to wherever? But just realizing you may not be where you think you want to be or you should be, but if you're just seeking and submitting to the Lord, he will bring to fruition whatever he wants. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's what he wants and not what we want. Because I'd say this path looked different. And then Trey and I met at school, and it's our senior year of school. I went to an all-girls school in Macon in Georgia. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, Lord, what's next? I didn't know that Trey was going to propose. So I looked at Delta to be a flight attendant. And then I'm telling Trey this ideas and like, what can I do next? But then I had done an internship at an ag extension office, and my degree was in history. So I was writing the history of ag for ag extension schools and different things. And just how the Lord, by going onto their sign-in website, he showed me that there is a degree in ag education. So long story short, there was a scholarship for it. I was able to go to grad school at UGA and get that scholarship and do that. But just how the Lord used those small things to lead step by step to step.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well,
one thing, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. One thing that I really want to emphasize, I know that was a long answer, but one of the biggest parts, if you heard from both of us, is one of the biggest roles that played in our calling and also in our guidance was our churches. Yeah. And so if I could give any guidance or direction to anyone that's seeking churches, or the seeking missions, talk to your pastor, talk to your church, get involved, and God will continue to work out where he needs you for that particular time in your life and in the future. He'll continue to guide and direct your steps.
Great counsel. Well, let's talk about your missions work. What exactly do you do on a day-to-day basis for your missions work? And tell us about that operation over there.
Absolutely. So it's recently changed for us. I would say for the first year that we were here, the International Mission Board wanted us to really be invested into where we were moving. And so they wanted us to spend the first year learning the culture here, which is Shona, learning the language of Shona, and really focus on building relationships and sharing the gospel and focusing on those things before coming over here. What we originally came over here to do was to share the gospel and to do all of those things and church planting and making disciples. But one key part of that strategy was agriculture. And we're coming over here to a seminary and that trains local pastors. And so we work alongside with International Mission Board, another family that's here serving with them. And the father, or the guy, Nick Moore, he's the academic dean of the seminary. And one thing that he noticed that, pastors are coming from all over Zimbabwe or wanting to be pastors and to better lead and lead their churches and to share the gospel and to be faithful to biblical theology. But the issue was that no pastors don't have a way to pay for their education or a way for the seminary to remain sustainable. So Nick, who's the academic dean, wrote a description saying, hey, we need someone here that can help come up with projects, agricultural projects that can create sustainability here for the seminary. And so they started a chicken farm. And so they started that chicken farm. And but for the first year, we didn't get heavily involved with the chickens or with the farming. We focused on the gospel, the language, the culture. And we're still focused on those things, but it was nice not to be super distracted with agriculture and all of those things, and to really get to know the people here. And so we spent 5 days a week with an instructor coming to our house and teaching us the language. And then we would also have someone that would watch the children during that time. And at first we were like, man, we're getting to learn this language. This is so cool. And after about a month, we were like, oh no, what are we doing? It was challenging. It was really hard. But another part that's really challenging of learning the language is that everybody speaks such great English here. The trade language here is English.
So people can come, and it's hard because we'll greet in Shona, and then they'll go, hey, what's up? What you doing?
Yeah.
And then
they'll laugh at us and be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. You're cute trying to learn our language, but what's up? Yeah. So
it's a help, but also a hindrance, because the one thing I wanted to say with the IMB, when Trey went to seminary, we just looked up the website to IMB, and then you can fill out a form and almost like apply and get a request in to do an interview. So I will say it's like a job that you apply for, you look into it and different stuff. But that's one of the things with the IMB that we're grateful, is that they provided childcare or the funds to do the childcare, to have someone watch. So that way it wasn't just Trey getting to learn the full time, but I also was able to do it. Yes. So it makes it great that as a job requirement, we were both able to learn it. And we passed our language evaluation, and we passed on the same day. So it was, because you can't do ministry work, like work until you pass it. We even had a vacation one time not approved because they didn't want us to take a break from our language. So now that that's completed, we just praise God for that we can breathe deeper now.
Well, okay, give us a phrase in Shona.
Yeah.
Shona?
We'll
give us a
do
phrase.
like a little mini. We'll do like a mini conversation, like we're meeting each other in the morning. Okay. Mamukase.
Tumuka mamukase. Korese kumba?
Kuma kwakanaka.
Dino fara kunjwa jojo.
Yeah. Makarara shakanaka.
Rara shakanaka.
Dino fara kunjwa. Dino fara kunjwa jojo.
Titinda.
All right.
Varise vana?
Vano fara. Yeah. Varise vana?
Vana aka rara.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, move in is over rakanaka.
Rakanaka.
Nemiwo.
Tuanana. That started your hello. How's it going? How are the kids doing? And
Caitlin said our kids are
I said, should be quiet. Our kids are asleep.
Well, I am very, very impressed. Very impressed.
Thank you.
Honestly, Rayford can do a lot better than us. So it's humbling to have a 3-year-old pick up on stuff and go, okay.
Yeah.
But let's talk about some personal reflections now that you've been on the mission field for a year and a half now, and really settled into missionary life. There's this idea that might be floating out there that missionaries never struggle spiritually, and
we don't fight within our marriage either.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Another misnomer out there. Yeah. Tell me what is the biggest challenge for you guys in your spiritual life? And I'm asking this so that we can better pray for you as an IMB missionary.
You care if I go first on this one?
Yeah, that's good.
I want to talk about a past struggle of where I feel like the Lord just gave us a huge gift. With our Shona lessons, we had to go to a rural church, and so our church was in Shona. And with our Shona, yes, we know it, but we only know like this much out of this much. So even though we pass the fluent exam, we can get lost so quick. Like sometimes I go, are we discussing God or a cow? Like, you just hear a word and you're just not sure for a moment. So church was really hard for me. And I found that I was dreading on Saturday night. I felt like I was dreading the Sunday because it was a rural church. There's not a bathroom. It lasts about 4 hours, and these people love the Lord. Like, they make me ask myself if I'm even a believer, because if you could see how far they walk to come to church, what time they get up, and they walk in their heels, they walk in, and it's the hardest benches. Yeah, these women and men are dressed a 3-piece suit for the men. I mean, a head wrap, a full dress, and heels for the woman, and they've walked a dirt road to get there. And you're right, there's no AC or no heat, so either you're freezing or sweating. And I wear my tennis shoes or boots, honestly. And I just felt like it was really hard for me. I would enjoy to hear them sing, but listening to go to church for 4 hours. Trey and I, it was great because we'd switch out with the kids. One of us would be outside, but it was just hard because you don't.
4 hours was a short Sunday.
Yeah, and you don't understand. And I found myself just dreading it. Even though the people were sweet, but I just found it to become work and a chore. But recently, the Lord has gifted us, Nick Moore, the Moores that he was mentioning, another couple with the IMB. They're the only ones that are here in our town. They have merged with a church to do a church plant. And so the last 2 months, we have switched our church and are going to that church. So to hear a sermon in English, there's the wife, she does the kids group. So the kids go to that. I get to sit and be fed the Bible and teaching. And it's just been a huge gift. I feel like that recently just was like a shift from a struggle to this huge blessing. I'll let Trey go what I think of my current one.
Yeah. No, I think you can get lonely, especially as Thanksgiving just came. Yeah. All of the sweet family traditions and everything, it can get lonely very quick. And as Caitlin said, we were going to Shona Church, and it was really sweet. That church was really, really sweet to us. And they helped us through challenging times, but at the same time, it was a different culture. It was, and it was hard at times, just because we were having to make sure we were feeding ourselves. And the times that we didn't feed ourselves, it was very, very, very evident, more evident than it's ever been in our lives. And sin could very easily creep up and just be struggling with anger more. And that was something that I struggled with. There are so many things that I felt like that were out of my control. Just one thing like standing in, I just feel like everything you're standing in a line for, and everything takes forever, and you're just completely out of control of everything. And to your car breaking down, to standing in line for an hour just to get some groceries, or trying to figure out where to get fuel, and just realizing how out of control you are. But then trying to control the things that you feel like you have control over, like your children or that, and trying to make sure that you're not just giving that control to God and giving it all to Him. And but you can find yourself trying to control and manipulate everything. And when something doesn't go your way, it can, for me, my struggle was anger, but the Lord is growing me in that, and constantly just reminding me that I'm this big, and He is Almighty, powerful God, and that He's growing us and He's shaping us and He's making us more like Jesus. And and He was reminding me of that constantly.
Yeah. And I would say for my current thing, it just seems like every time you look to the left or to the right, there's someone that needs help. And just if I could just ask for y'all to pray on wisdom on how to help, because every situation is so different. Like last night or the night before, we drove up and there was a man just laying in the road in front of our driveway, just in the fetal position. So, and like, we're just thinking like, okay, are they trying to carjack us? Is it, attempt to get us to get out of the truck, and the kids are in the truck and it's night, and okay, no, should we stop and help this man? Should we be like the Good Samaritan? And so just sometimes it is just exhausting trying to figure out, how do you not create dependency? You don't want them just to say like, oh, look, it's American, they'll help us. But also like, no, I do want to help this person who's curled up in the road. How do you do this in a wise manner, but also a way to sacrifice, even if it goes against the cultural norm? So sometimes it's just exhausting trying to figure out how to help in the moment without creating more of a problem.
Yeah.
But
No, that's so true.
In a way that honors the Lord.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
We just need God for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And trusting Him in that. And He has given us wisdom, I feel like, in almost every situation. And that is the hard part of just feeling not having an escape from it, that it's in front of you every day. That I feel like the positive of it is that we are constantly reminded that we live in a broken world, and it's just making us look forward to the kingdom that's coming, and looking and pointing people that are struggling and that are starving and that are really hurting. We want to try to help them as much as possible. If their bellies are empty, but you can't feed everyone. But for the ones that we can help, and pointing them, saying like, you're going to be hungry again. That's the sad part. But we're pointing you to a kingdom that is better than ever, and have the opportunity to share the gospel with them, and pointing them to a non-broken world, something that we can all look forward to.
Well, my people here at First Baptist Quincy, they don't like 4-hour church services either. So,
we understand. We're glad we can cut off. We can land that plane at time.
There are so many questions that we could ask you. Let me close with this question, because we are doing this as we collect for the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. All of that offering goes to the International Mission Board, and all of that money goes directly to support missionaries like you. So,
Thank you all of the over our head.
with all the Southern Baptist churches that are collecting offerings during the month of December, as missionaries out on the field, how does that make you feel? In a word or two, how does that take us inside of your head as we give offerings?
As I said earlier, sometimes you struggle with loneliness, then you're reminded of that, and you know that you're really not alone, and that you're more in this together, and that that we couldn't do it without people that without that giving, and without those prayers, and without just that bond in Christ that we have, and that we're in this together. I can't tell you just how loved and how happy and joyful that makes me all at the same time.
I would also say for me, it brings me to a point of speechlessness when I first think about it, of just to see the way that Christ weaves together a cord of 3 strands, and that on the days that it's, what are we here for? We're sitting in a language. This is pointless. It's COVID. We're on lockdown. Why don't we just be in the States instead of being here? Like, what's the point? The Lord will use something of a gift that people have given from the churches to affirm we're exactly where it is that we're supposed to be, and how we are not alone. We have our arms locked with our brothers and sisters of Christ of all ages, of young to old, and just how we can't do any part of this without the church, and specifically how the church had in Quincy has just loved us both. I mean, we got married there, and that just like the altar, the symbolism there of the Lord is calling everyone to lay down your life. Like Trey and I aren't special. There's nothing there, like there's nothing that's unique about us, and that Christ, for every
Christ
single
is.
person that follows Christ, he is calling you to share and to tell. And that's what it just reminds us, that we're not alone. Now we might be alone in Zimbabwe, but who cares? We're not alone. There's someone who's going to school, who's going to work, who's facing the same way that we feel, that awkwardness of like, oh, am I going to bring it up now? Okay, am I going to share? Or this is uncomfortable, you know? And so in that, we're not alone, of wanting to submit and grow, and less of us and more of Jesus.
Yeah. More.
Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you for taking us into the mission field in Zimbabwe. You are special to us. We love you and we pray for you.
Thank
And
you.
we pray God's richest blessings on your ministry there in Zimbabwe.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.